welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens. I'm the author of the young adult fantasy Firian Rising, and this is English Nerd. So today I thought I would do a video that's a little bit different than something that I've done before. I wanted to give you just a monster list of recommendations of things to read and watch while we all are stuck at home. So a lot of these are serious recommendations, but some of them are a little bit tongue-in-cheek. They'll just keep you entertained, I think, if you want something like that. So let's dive in. I've broken this video up into two sections. The first will be things to read, and the second will be things to watch. So here we go. First of all, I just finished the Shadow and Bone series by Leigh Bardugo. I know that I'm a bit behind the curve here. These books have been out for a little while, but if you have not read the Shadow and Bone series, I would most definitely recommend it. It's about a girl named Alina Starkov who finds out that she has these extraordinary powers that end up throwing her into the world of royals and intrigue, and it's really good. So check that one out. Also, there's a series coming out on Netflix in just a few months about that, so if you want to get ahead of the curve, there you go. Next up, I read these a year ago or so, but I'm going to throw them on the list anyway. The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater is a series of 4 books, and it basically follows these 4 boys and then Blue, a girl that they meet who's not from their same school. And it's very supernatural and kind of creepy, but the characters stick with you. Let me tell you. I've talked about this series on my channel before. There is some objectionable language, so if that's a problem for you, this is probably not the series that you'd like, but other than that, it's fantastic. Okay, next up we have The Stolen Kingdom by Bethany, Atazadeh, and I feel like I'm saying her last name incorrectly, but anyway, she has a YouTube channel as well, and it's very helpful with self-publishing. I mean, look at this book. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a loose Aladdin retelling, so it's light and fluffy and generally pretty happy, so if you're looking for something like that, check it out. There is another, actually there are 2 more books. I think she just put out the 3rd one in this series that are out as well, and those are connected, but they're also fairy tale retellings. The second one is Little Mermaid retelling, and then the 3rd one is Beauty and the Beast, I believe. So check that out. Okay, in the vein of indie authors, I do have to suggest my own book, Firian Rising. If you have not already read it, now is the time, because in just a few short weeks, the 2nd book in the Tanyuan Academy series is coming out. It's called Into the Unreal, and it's going to take this world and make it darker and even more twisty and surprising. So I've mentioned this before as well, but for as long as this coronavirus thing persists and has us all stuck in our homes, the digital version of this is available for 99 cents on Amazon. And for some reason, the paperback's on a crazy sale as well, so you can check that out. Okay, back to some other recommendations. I don't actually own all these books, by the way. I mean, I'm showing you the ones that I own, but there will be some that I don't in just a second. So next up is 6 of Crows. It's a duology, also by Leigh Bardugo, in the same world as Shadow and Bone. And it follows 6 criminals, essentially, who are attempting this impossible heist, and the characters are absolutely fantastic in this as well. They're super memorable, funny, dark. Yeah, so check it out again if you have not done that. This story will somehow be linked to the Shadow and Bone series that they're making for Netflix. I'm still trying to figure out in what order they're going to be telling the story, because the cast list is not at all helpful, because they don't have the full cast of the first trilogy or the full cast for this duology, so who even knows what they're doing over there. Okay, so next I have the Lunar Chronicles. Cinder is the very first one by Marissa Meyer. These are also fairy tale retellings. They are sci-fi, and they feel like Star Wars. If you are a Star Wars fan, whether you are a guy or a girl, I would very much recommend this series, even though it looks like it would be just for the ladies. It is a complete blast. Again, the characters are memorable, delightful. The story builds in this incredible way. I was practically in tears after the fourth and final book. I had a major book hangover. I had to read basically everything else that Marissa Meyer has ever written after this before I could move on to something else. So check out Cinder if you have not done that. That one came out in 2012 or so, which in the YA fantasy world is a while. So maybe you've read it already. So my next recommendation then would also be another Marissa Meyer, and that is the Renegades series. It follows a girl named Nova who has grown up with supervillains essentially because the rest of her family died, and it's her story and how she attempts to take down the Renegades, which is like this Avengers style group of superheroes that now rules large parts of the world. And there's a small group of superheroes in particular who are in charge, and the child of a couple of them is named Adrian, and it's basically Adrian and Nova's story. And it was surprisingly delightful. Took me a second to get into because there's so many superheroes with powers and things like that, but it's really good. Next, I would recommend the Scorpio races. This was one of the most recent audiobooks that I listened to. I love both narrators so much. Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater is about this race that happens every year on a rocky British island named Thisbe, and the horses are not regular horses that they race. Instead, they are these carnivorous, frightening horses that come out of the sea, and there are casualties every year, and it's kind of brutal. But Sean Kendrick is one of the main characters. He is a horse, and Kapalishka, those are this water horses, trainer, and then Puck Connolly is the other protagonist, and she is going to attempt to ride in the races with just a regular horse. And I ended up liking this book a whole lot more than I expected, so check that one out if you haven't already. Okay, next up, I told you this was a monster list of recommendations. We're cruising. Next up is the Kiss of Deception series. It just finished a couple years ago. It's by Mary E. Pearson, and it is a fantasy about a girl who runs away from this arranged marriage and ends up still getting caught up in the world of politics and war, and it's an example of a love triangle done right. My favorite book in the series is the second one, which is Heart of Betrayal. That one was awesome. I really liked the second one a whole lot. So check out the Kiss of Deception series if you haven't. Okay, next up, we have the Legend series by Marie Lu. It is a trilogy, and then there's a spin-off called Rebel that just came out about one of the characters several years after the events of the first trilogy. Rebel's pretty good, but the Legend trilogy is really the best. It is about a criminal named Day who is trying to disrupt the kind of dystopian futuristic government that he's living in. And then there's June, who is a prodigy in the world of that high-ranking dystopian society. She's like on track to become one of the most important people. So it's their story, and it takes surprising and delightful and shocking turns that made me like it more than I expected to when I first started it. So check that one out. After that, I have Aurora Rising, which is a young adult sci-fi, and I mentioned this one in one of my previous videos about, things to do while you're stuck at home, listen to audiobooks, and Aurora Rising was one of the ones that I recommended. That one is about a ragtag group of people who are basically like the Peace Corps of the galaxy, but these are new recruits, so they're all pretty young, and they end up getting caught up in this huge just political mess, intergalactic nonsense. One of their own group is being hunted by the this militaristic band because of her special ability that she has, and I won't tell you any more because you just need to listen to it. The audiobook is the way to go for that one. The voices are superb. And the sequel to that, Aurora Burning, is coming out in... when is it coming out? May? It's coming out super soon, so now is the time to get on board with that series. Okay, I think that's it. I'm looking at my list. I think that's it for books. Obviously, there are lots of other books that I could recommend, but this wasn't about my favorites necessarily, or classics or anything. It was more about books that I've recently enjoyed that are more escapist, fun, fluffy. Okay, so now things that I have been watching, shows, movies, documentaries, all that have kept me entertained recently. So, number one, I've just in the last few days started watching Making It, which is with Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman. It's just a feel-good reality show about people who DIY things in super impressive ways. So it's a really happy, easygoing show. If you liked Parks and Rec, you just get a little bit more of the dorky humor of Amy and Nick. So that one is fun. It's on Hulu, I think. The second season's on Hulu. I think you have to buy the first season, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I've just been watching the second season, and it's been great. Okay, I also just started in the last couple of days Good Girls, which is rated mature, so just take that under advisement. But it is the story of these 3 women who get caught up in a life of crime. Everything starts off with really good intentions, and then they just get deeper and deeper and deeper into it. It deals with some dark things, but it has enough humor that it never feels like a super dark show, despite the things that they're talking about and doing. So my roommate and I have been binging that one a bit. Check it out if you're interested. Next, we're cruising along, so many things. Next is Onward, the new Pixar movie. It just went on streaming very recently. Disney recognized that nobody's going to the theaters at the moment, so they released it early on streaming. It is a really bizarre concept. I didn't think I would like it all that much, but I ended up really enjoying it. It feels a bit like throwback Pixar, where it's a funky idea, but it's executed really well. So if you haven't seen Onward, if you didn't get the chance to see it in theaters, then check that one out. You, and no matter how old you are, will super enjoy that, I think. I also recently watched Knives Out when that was in theaters. It's directed by Rian Johnson, who has kind of a mixed reputation at the moment because of The Last Jedi, which I mostly enjoyed, but I recognize it had problems. Anyway, so he directed and wrote Knives Out, which is a funky whodunit with just a ton of stars and really weird humor, almost like, oh gosh, what's his face, that director? As soon as I stop this video, I'll remember. It'll come to me in just a second. Anyway, give it a shot. If you don't like the first 5 minutes, you probably won't like the whole movie because it gives you a good idea of the type of movie it's going to be right out of the gate. Okay, I've also been enjoying Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which just finished its final season very recently. I forget how many seasons there are, a lot. But it's a cop comedy. I'm sure you've seen at least previews for it if you haven't watched it yourself. It's funny, the characters are fun, and I've been enjoying that one. If I can't decide what to watch, it's a great fallback. Sometimes it's super clever, and characters like Captain Holt just completely crack me up, basically no matter what they do. So there's that. If you're in the mood for some comedy, now again, I told you not all these are going to be serious recommendations. Some of these are just going to be here's what you can use to entertain yourself while you're stuck at home wanting something to entertain yourself with. This is one of those not so serious recommendations. So my sister and I like to watch terrible movies and make fun of them. It's kind of our thing. Action movies in particular. And so a winner in that regard, in the make fun ability aspect that we've recently seen, is Ghost Rider 2: Spirit of Vengeance with Nicolas Cage. It is Cage at his cagiest. It is so bad. and so great at the same time. You do not need to see the first one to appreciate the second one. In fact, the second one seems to forget a ton of the things that happened in the first one, and the second one is funnier because it's even worse. So I would just jump straight to Spirit of Vengeance if I were you, if you're in the mood for that kind of thing. And yeah, so moving on to something that is more serious. How about a documentary? I watched the Imagineering documentary recently on Disney Plus. It just goes through the history of Disney parks. So if you're a big Disney fan like I am, it's a great option for you. It starts out with as Disneyland is being built with Walt, and then goes through all the different owners of the company, all the different parks. So I got to see things in Beijing or Paris that I wouldn't otherwise have gotten to see. And there is a little bit of a preview of what's coming up in Disney parks in the final episode of the Imagineering documentary. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, check it out. Another documentary that I recently watched that's been out for a little while though, it's on Netflix I think, is called Wild Wild Country. And it really is completely wild. The idea is that basically a cult moves in and takes over the town of Antelope, Oregon, and the story escalates, and it's hard to believe that this actually happened. It is another mature thing, so there are some scenes that are not for younger watchers, but man, was that fascinating. I binged that thing. It was just unbelievable. So check it out. Let me know what you think. And finally, in no particular order, but certainly not least, is if you have Disney Plus and you haven't watched The Mandalorian, I don't know what you're doing with your life. The Mandalorian is incredible. I am not a big Boba Fett fan at all. I've been, in fact, vocally against his popularity for many years because I'm such a big Han Solo fan. But The Mandalorian is more than just like a Boba Fett fan club type thing like I expected it to be. It's completely different, it's actually not Boba Fett, it's somebody else, a different Mandalorian. And, of course, if you've seen all the Baby Yoda memes, they come from The Mandalorian. He's so unbelievably cute. So, watch The Mandalorian. It is so, so good. I can't wait for the next season. So, I hope that you enjoyed all of these recommendations. And let me know if you have any for me down below. Like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe for more English nerdy goodness. And I will see you next week. Bye.